Well, with me, it's my comrade in arms on these sort of productions. People miss you if you're not here. And wow, when did we last talk? Because so much is happening. And we are talking about the obvious stuff here. The Dr Ranson implications that I've had. There's so much to talk about.
There's almost too much, isn't there?
Well, we might do it in sections here, but where do we want to start? Where did you want to start? You're the guest.
Well, let's start off where we sort of left on Rosalind Ranson's tribunal, because the first tribunal, remember, gave that extraordinary award and that extraordinary judgment. And then there was a second tribunal hearing, and that seemed to cause a certain degree of confusion. Do you remember?
It caused me confusion with you because we saw things differently.
Yeah, we had a lively exchange, if you remember.
I like that because
outside.
There was no right or wrong. We just saw things like a completely different way.
Well, it's now finished, so perhaps I could enlighten
hang on. It's finished.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that has happened.
Well, yes, it has.
So that's news to me.
Well, there you are.
So it's wrapped. Oh,
yes.
So everything's now finished.
Not quite. Can I just go through?
Please
the detail?
do.
Okay.
You always interest me when you come. We don't rehearse this at all. I have to say that's purposely we don't do it. So
no,
tell us.
Well, that interesting exchange between us was because there were not a difference of opinion, but because there wasn't an understanding of what that second tribunal was about. And in fact, it was about recognising that there'd been maltreatment of Dr Ranson from the period starting when the first tribunal ended to when she finally finished with the government's employment overall. Rosalind Ranson's intention was not to focus on extraordinary additional claims. She believed it was very important for history to show how government had treated her in the area that hadn't been covered by the tribunal. So she wanted it on record.
Okay.
And that was the intention. And I think during the conversation that we had, I did say I had hoped, and I did hope, that both parties could come together. And they did. And the important thing is that the tribunal registered the maltreatment that Rosalind Ranson was subject to. And Rosalind Ranson's claim was that she wanted an apology off government for that period. And she wanted, as a recognition of it, she wanted government to make a £5,000 donation to hospice. So, as I speak, I believe that donation has been made.
Because as far as I know, none of this is in the public domain.
No, well, I'll explain why in a second. Okay. And they've had the apology. Now, the listener might say, well, hang on a second. If we haven't heard about the outcome, how come it's recorded? Well, it is recorded with the tribunal, because there was no tribunal judgment, there was no need for a tribunal judgment because both parties came together and agreed that they accepted what was being said about her treatment, and they offered the apology and the pay.
If only that could have happened in the first tribunal.
Oh, God.
I think what we'd have all saved a lot of time and money. Anyway,
and the career of an extraordinary medic.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the reason you can't just simply go on to judgments is there isn't a judgment because I said there's an agreement. But my understanding is that if somebody wants to examine what was said by both parties, because you remember the KCs were in attendance as well, that it is possible to, as it were, I think the answer is you get the transcript from the tribunal. So it is recorded and it is available. There is one outstanding matter, and that is the matter of costs. Now, you'll remember in the first tribunal, the judgment was, I can't remember, it's 3.2 or 3.4 million, and 70% of the costs.
Which is unheard of to have that.
Absolutely unheard of. And that was the tribunal's judgment because they were so, frankly, let's use the word disgusted with the treatment she was subject to. Now, the costs issue has not yet been resolved. I fully expect that by now Callum Wilde have been fully paid and the KCs representing them, and we're talking there from the government side hundreds of thousands of pounds.
Yeah, it's massive figures.
Massive figures, and yet there's no recognition of the fact that Rosalind Ranson's husband, KC, was acting, a barrister anyway, was acting for her for months, and I personally, on more than one occasion, saw the amount of work they were putting in. There was a huge table in the lounge and it was packed, piled with documents. The effort, energy, time and expense they went into was extraordinary. And, you know, true to form, government are being difficult over this, and you think to yourself, you know, are they determined to be nasty to the last dot?
I thought the tribunal, they said they had paid out. I mean, that's what the indication was, or the implication was. I mean, she had some of the money, or is this relevant? I mean,
the outstanding amount is the amount relating to the time and effort that her husband put in and gave up his normal...
Right, so the main bulk has been settled, hasn't it, though?
Yes.
Right.
Yes, okay.
Right.
So that clears that one up.
Right, well, that's interesting. So hopefully no one can throw any sub judice at us anymore. Not that they have been for a little while, but...
Well,
you know.
I don't necessarily... I mean, people throw sub judice around like it's sort of, you know, confetti, but there you go. Anyway, let's talk about your extraordinary Manx Radio programme and the...
Oh, the Sunday one?
Yeah, the regulation issue. I mean...
It kind of did go on a tangent I wasn't expecting, and... go on, you go first.
Well,
you can talk to me about this.
I found it absolutely jaw-dropping. You were invited? Yeah, okay. So you're invited to attend a meeting, an interview I believed, understood, to discuss the matter relating to the FOIs that were long outstanding.
Clearly, that was it. That was my intention to talk about that. Yes.
And I thought you would have the opportunity to explain your side of it. Yeah. And you were ambushed. I mean, I've never seen anything quite like it. And the whole programme was, I mean, first of all, there were two guests apart from yourself, and there was a third. I don't know whether Tim Glover was there.
He was on tape.
So the programme was filled with other opinions other than your own. The issue addressed to you was about regulation, and I thought, what on earth are they doing? Of course, it was to cloud out the issue that you were trying to deal with, and somehow, and I have to say this, the inference in the whole setup of the programme suggested that they were accusing you of being guilty of something. That's how it came.
By the end of it, I felt quite numb, because I thought, this has not gone the way I thought it was going to go. And when Tony Brown at the very beginning said he doesn't know much about the case, I went, well, what are you doing here?
Exactly.
I mean, really, what's the point?
Maybe he was brought on because he didn't know much
No, I can
about
tell you
it.
what happened. I mean, this is not secret. The fact is that no one was sure if the Chief Minister was going to show. He had left it late in the day. He'd been invited when I was invited. I put a tweet out saying, I'm looking forward to discussing with him. Yeah. Hadn't said he was going to appear, but late in the day, maybe, I don't know, I haven't got the timings, but it was late in the week that he was going to be there. In the meantime, I think Tony Brown was brought in, and you'd have to ask Phil Gordon to announce it, just to have somebody else in the room. I could have talked for the whole hour, to be honest, but anyway, that was that.
Well, I know that.
And Tim was on tape, and that took up 5-6 minutes.
The
time was being eaten away, that's why I felt by. And clearly, regulation is not the issue here.
No. The issue is very clear. The issue is about investigative journalism, and I thought it was extraordinary and ironic that the only person that I know of at the moment that's really trying to delve into investigative journalism is you.
Well, and my team of people helping.
Exactly, you know. And you get castigated by the radio station that is paid over £1 million to do what? It certainly appears not to be, in any shape or form, investigative journalism. And I think it calls into question the whole structure of our media on the Isle of Man, because apart from you, and I'm talking about investigative journalism now, we've got Manx Radio and we've got the newspapers. Now, the newspapers are sort of, I mean, it's subjective opinion, but or observational experience, is that the newspapers are a shadow of their former selves in terms of staffing levels, etc., because they have to be. And their ability to engage in investigative journalism must be, by definition, very limited. So that means that all we've got left is Manx Radio. Manx Radio, as we know, I think it paid over £1 million a year.
You agreed it when you were still in...
Indeed, I did, yes.
You went for it.
Yes, I did. I thought they were entitled to one last chance to get their act together. That's why I did that. They had a brand new CEO, and I thought, right, this isn't the moment. Let's see how they get on. Well, they haven't got on, in my opinion, at all. And And I don't think we're going to get there, because I think what we need, I think what Tynwald needs to seriously consider now, is recognising what investigative journalism is all about, how important it is to our system, and what they're going to do about it. And I would submit for people to think about, if they're not already thinking about it, is that instead of having the current system, we should create packages of funding which would be allocated out to various media outlets on the understanding that part of the value of that submission, that financial support, is that they engage in investigative journalism. And if they don't, then the funding is withdrawn. And that's as far as I can see, that's the only way it's going to happen. Would it undermine Manx Radio? Fine. But what are we paying for in Manx Radio if all they're doing is simply reporting information provided for them by government and others just to simply present?
But you can see how they have been conflicted, because when the previous Chief Minister was in place, Howard he rapped them over the knuckles in Tynwald by saying how, you know, he went off to the hospice do or something, and he went mad in Tynwald about it, and he made the threat.
I was there. I heard it.
Did he say, like, we give you £1 million a year? How dare you not do? You know, you shouldn't be doing this sort of thing. So
what an indictment that is, and what an indication for the need for change. Because let's just sort of step back from this. We're not the UK, where there's a myriad of media outlets of various standings and opinions. We haven't got those here. We need proper scrutiny of our system from a journalistic perspective. And no disrespect, Paul, all we've got is you.
And I'm retiring. I'm slowing down. But I'll have to put Tubbensworth in here. Manx Radio had 10 full-time journalists, which they wouldn't even release that information until the Freedom of Information went to the Commissioner, which unbelievable. Is why can't they tell you there's 10 people working there and 5 part-time, which is one of them is full gone. But the fact is, we had a story about freedom of the press. Online newspapers at that stage didn't want to know about it. Energy and 3FM really don't have a thing as such. I think if you fed them a news release, you would get something. I didn't do that. But Manx Radio, I went on that Sunday show, but they haven't talked to me at all for anything. I mean, that's where it gets really weird, because Phil Gorn, who's totally independent, you know, he just goes in there and he says, I do my job, and that's that. But the newsroom haven't asked me anything. And I've been in various news broadcasts, and they've used clips from that Sunday thing. I don't know if mine went out, but they still use everybody else's. But wouldn't you think they have that morning? It's not mandated anymore. It's a program. It's meant to be a bit of a current affairs program. But you think I might have been asked on that, or talked, or given a quote? And certainly the newsroom ran an item, and I was mentioned throughout. But they never rang me to get a quote. That's what worries me more than anything. Isn't it? Do you think this story though is too hot to handle?
No,
for the Manx Radio, because
no, it shouldn't. That's the point.
But there's also the other issues. I mean, I don't want to go into details, about the newsroom and civil service. But you're with me. That can be called into question. Surely, if the BBC get wrapped, they really do report on themselves. I mean, they probably actually go almost too far sometimes. They really, flagellate themselves almost. But surely Manx Radio has now got to be seen to be totally independent on this story, and I think at the minute they're showing exactly the opposite.
Well, what they're doing at the moment is they're consuming over £1 million worth of taxpayers' money to unfairly compete with other radio stations. And you think to yourself, well, what's that about? If they were providing special services that were above and beyond, then you could forgive them, and that absolutely must include investigative journalism. I don't think Manx Radio has ever been particularly good at that, but going back in my time, I very well remember looking forward to being interviewed by people like Charles Gard and
David
Collister, and they were very demanding interviews, and they would really push you, and I enjoyed them. They were very testing. Do we get that now?
But, I mean,
not even that.
But
now.
Laurie Huber won't talk to me now, because he didn't like an interview I put out.
Oh, he's just been childish. I mean, just let's not go there. I mean,
well, isn't that a major piece? He's a minister,
well,
and he went to Twitter and said some disparaging things, if not potentially libelous, I think you might say, about I'm a man with a camera, and I have. I mean, he wrote to the. Apparently, I haven't got definitely. He has written to the Tynwald committee to say I shouldn't be covering Tynwald. I've got news for you, Mr. Hooper. I don't want to cover it. I go down there I do it on my own fruition. I haven't been paid as a proper job now for years since the demise of MTTV. I'm doing this because I think it was important to have some coverage in pictures of the Tynwald Question Time, and I don't get a penny for it. Well, 50 viewers make about 3 pence, no, a bit more than that, you know, if you count in the actual YouTube.
Fortune, Paul, fortune.
I'm annoyed that for a man who stands for the Liberal Vannon Party, and by the way, the Southern District Vannon Party sent quite a different note saying they were upset with what happened. No, I think it's important. I have to say this because I won't probably get a chance to do it otherwise. So I can't say any more to camera by myself. But how odd, and he hasn't been reprimanded, by the way. Surely he passed a certain level of ministerial justice and what's the word? You know, code of conduct with what he said about me. Why would he have a go at me and not just do an interview to correct any false stories? I mean, I said it to him on camera. Please talk to us. And now he's probably messed up everything as far as me doing interviews yearly with all the MHKs. I don't think I really want to bother, to be honest. I don't think it's worth my effort to do anything like this. I think we'll become
Paul, have you got that off your chest?
No, well, it's almost there. I was going to say I'm going to become more of a, like this, you know, maybe I should be more opinionated. Maybe I should be more biting. I tried on general things to be always neutral, but this has always taken us slightly over the edge, and I appreciate that. When we have a chat, I think I have an opinion, and that's probably okay because it's not an interview with you've got a view and I've got a view, and by bull, we've gone.
We differ on occasions.
We do.
Indeed. But I don't want to waste too much time on Laurie Hooper, simply because I've been expressing concerns and opinions about him for some time, and quite honestly, I've given up on him.
Do you think he should stay there?
No, I just think he needs to grow up. I mean, I really do. I just don't want to discuss him.
Should he be a minister? Should he?
No.
Does he want to be a minister? Do you think he wants to go almost? It feels like he's almost like some sort of...
I don't want to discuss him.
Okay, you don't want to.
No, it's waste.
Well, those questions are more I would like to put to Laurie Hooper.
Well, do that then.
No, it's not going to happen.
There's more important things than him.
Okay, well, we've got another 5 minutes in this section.
Okay, well let's go. Well, do you want to then just discuss the famous SLAPP? I mean, good.
That might take longer than that. Go on then.
Well, we could start it and perhaps have a break.
Okay.
But, I mean, what an extraordinary thing that was.
Why would anybody in government with any thought process going on realise that I wasn't just going to roll over? Because I've got people who work, they're just volunteering their time. They couldn't believe almost their luck, and that's probably the wrong word, but you know, they couldn't believe they'd done it because that left them open to having to respond to my reply, which is saying, give us this information. You now have to produce your information. If you're
Can I answer what happened, in my opinion?
Sorry, I'm going on.
It's all right. You'll be all right.
It's quite stressful. I have got to tell you, this will be very stressful. Oh, God.
But, look, the government has behind it the full panoply of legal advice from the AG's department. And behind that, they have sort of a bottomless pit of funding, taxpayers' funding.
Well, it is when they put the DHSC on the ticket.
And I'm talking about much broader than the SLAPP. I'm just talking about historically.
Yeah.
And for a long time now, I would put it to you, Paul, that government has been abusing that authority and financing to the detriment of individual citizens who have neither the legal support or the finance. And that's created a sense of arrogance and bad habit. The SLAPP emerges from both arrogance, finance, availability of funding, and a belief that they can get away with it. And it was so clumsy and ridiculous.
Okay.
And it got taken to pieces by...
We haven't released it yet. It's coming out, by the way. I promise it's definitely coming out.
You said you're going to release it, aren't you?
I'm advised that I can, because I think people have to see it, because everyone's questioning what exactly is going on. I would as well. But just to be clear on this, civil servants doing this rather than presumably ministers. The minister, in my case, Mr. Hooper again, says he didn't know anything about the thing. He went on Twitter to say he knew nothing about it. So that came from a diversification of the powers, or whatever, what's the right terminology for that? You know, when you delegated powers, which we've been through all sorts of issues there with Mr. Collister on his issue. But do you think that makes sense?
No,
that a civil servant, because Laurie Hooper has said he didn't know about it, so he's been clear. We don't have to do an FOI on that one. He did not know.
Well, hang on a second. It concerned in the end. It concerned 3 officers, as we know. Yes. I don't want to go over the whole detail. 3 officers who were not part of DHSC. Okay. yet it came in under the auspices of DHSC authority. So by definition, it must have been associated with the CEO of DHSC. And Frank, otherwise, how could it have been authorised? It couldn't. Right. Okay. So I cannot imagine, for the life of me, that CEO would have taken that action without referring it to the AG's department. I cannot see
the minister.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
well, wouldn't you?
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
It's a lawyer's letter. It has to be surely signed off by the minister in some shape, form, or fashion, or delegated just to that civil servant.
It's a complete mess. But I think the sooner you can get out the original SLAPP letter and the detailed, I think it's 11 page.
Mine's 11 pages back.
11 pages.
Which, I mean, of course, we had up to date of recording this. We haven't heard from Canon Wild since.
But you know, you're part of a growing list of people who have been attacked by government for daring to challenge or provide information.
This is their playbook. This is what it's called. This is how it has always worked in the past, presumably.
It has.
Do that, shut them up, and we can just carry on.
Look, I think, yes, I agree. I think these things have been going on for a long time. I think what's happened now, though, is that we've got the increased use of subject access issues, and you've also got the FOI Act, which I brought out 2015, and those two together are progressively opening up government to investigations and inspection of evidence they're just simply not used to. But as that process emerges, it doesn't look good at all, and it also, starts to seriously implicate the behaviour of the AG's department. You know, I've been going on and on about this now for a long time, and it seriously worries me. Perhaps we can discuss it later.
Yeah, we'll do it. Put the kettle on, load up part 2. We're back shortly.
Okay.